What's going on, everybody? Dr. Vasquez here, coming to you live with a super spontaneous video that, like, these ideas were coming to me so fast that I had to do this video right now in order to try to trap these ideas. So, anyway, I thought of a different quote I could use, but I don't really see that that would be necessary. This is going to be plenty sufficient as it is. So last night I did a video on international relocation. For those of you considering international relocation, I provided about 24 considerations from my experience in having relocated internationally at least 4 times. And I explain all of that in the video that you can access. But at some point in that video last night, again, the concrete topic was international relocation and various criteria and kind of a stepwise process as well. The concrete topic was international relocation, but the abstract topic was making a life that makes you happy, you know, and go where it lights you up, whether it's geography or architecture or people or food or music or dancing or whatever. Just go where you're happy. So, you know, maybe that's a point that I can make and I will make right now. None of this conversation on international relocation matters unless you give yourself permission to be happy. Like, I could not be happy if I had lived my entire life in Houston, Texas, which is where I grew up. I mean, it just wouldn't be possible. Same thing's probably true. You know, I could say the same thing for me living in Miami or Pittsburgh as well. That just wouldn't work for me. So, in order for me to be happy, I've had to relocate on several different occasions for different reasons. Sometimes I relocated for strategy or logistics, and then sometimes it was because of desire. But as I said in that video, you know, like, the ultimate goal of international relocation is to make your life better and to make yourself happy. But in order to see that, you have to see yourself as being worthy of happiness. And you have to see life as something worth enjoying. You know, some people, like my father once said to me something like, it was kind of a Catholic thing. He said, life is suffering and we're here to suffer. And one of the things he said to me when I was 26, he was visiting me in Seattle. And he said, I don't know why, or I don't know how this came up. I remember exactly where we were. We were in a cafe in a shopping center called University Village, which is right next to the University of Washington. Of course, right off the Burt Gilman Trail. So he said to me, for whatever reason, he said, I have to keep working this hard until I die. And he pretty much did that. But, you know, I could get into a whole different conversation on that. The distinction between sigma males and alpha males and things like that. I mean, that actually applies very strongly to what I'm talking about right now. But anyway, like I said, in the spontaneous video I did last night, I talked about, you know, the importance of just being happy. And international relocation that's part of international relocation. Sometimes you're trying to save your life. Sometimes, like when we left Europe, we were trying to escape all the COVID pandemic bullshit. But I guess, you know, in a sense, we could have stayed there and we could have toughed it out and we could have just said, oh, well, life is suffering. But I don't see it that way. So that's why we relocated. But anyway, go wherever you're happy. And that's the biggest part of the message is, you know, go where you're treated well and go where it lights you up, whether it's geography or architecture or people or food or music or dancing or whatever. Just go where you're happy. So, you know, maybe that's a point that I can make and I will make right now. None of this conversation on international relocation matters unless you give yourself permission to be happy. That's what this is about in an abstract sense. So I'm talking about my checklist for international relocation. But why the hell would you even want to consider internationally relocating except to give yourself a better life experience, whether it's more safety, better income, it doesn't have to be more income, it just needs to be an income that works for your environment. So, like, I know people who are supremely happy making the American equivalent of $25,000 a year. Supremely happy. In the United States, that would be abject poverty. No one's going to be, I mean, I can't imagine these days with the inflation in the United States. I can't imagine anybody being happy. Maybe it can happen if they've got everything paid for or whatever. But let's assume that they don't have everything paid for and they have to live off of $25,000 a year. I mean, in the United States, that would be impossible. But in other countries, the equivalent of 25,000 American dollars per year, they're living well. So, you know, the conversation on where you're going to live depends on what your needs are and what makes you happy. But that's the ultimate goal. I mean, that is what we're here for. It's not to be like hedonists, but I mean, we're not here to suffer. And anybody who thinks we're here to suffer just is wrong. So, I mean, yeah, I'm talking about international relocation, but the ultimate goal of international relocation is to have different experiences, a richer tapestry of experiences, and maybe get away from a place that's poisoning your food and spraying your air with chemtrails. So, let's see. So anyway, that also ties into one of my recent projects, which was to review Nietzsche's book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And throughout the book, he does talk about happiness, either directly or indirectly. And for those of you who have also read this very important philosophical work, Inflammation Mastery, 4th edition, for those of you who have read it, you will have noticed that right here on this page, which maybe I'll try to provide a screenshot of this page so you can actually read it. But below this very nice compliment from Jeffrey Bland, at the very last line, you'll see what I wrote, which is, the goals of healthcare should be optimization of physical health and psychosocial intellectual freedom, otherwise known as happiness. So I was kind of thinking about all those things a little bit, kind of in the background of my mind today, and I was again thinking about the Zarathustra book from Nietzsche, and how something that Nietzsche says in Zarathustra was also kind of echoed by the very famous Romanian conductor, Sergio, what's his last name? Celibidache. So I saw an interview with him over the last couple of months, and one of the things he said in his interview, he was asked, perhaps, I don't remember what the prompt was, but I assume he was asked, you know, like, what's your overall goal here, or what's the philosophy of your music, or whatever. And his response, I'll try to find the clip and put it in this video if I can find it. I think I can find it. But his response, which I, again, assume was a prompt about, you know, like, what's the goal or the philosophy of his music or his teaching, he said, I'm just trying to liberate people. I want people to be free. And I'm willing to assume that that's correct.
Le moment créatif, il est libre. Libre de toute votre science, de tous vos instincts. Tout est transcendé. Et de l'autre côté.
Je ne veux pas avoir l'air pédante, mais je crois que c'est Nietzsche qui disait que l'innocence était la condition essentielle de la création, de la liberté dans l'art.
Pendant les choses acceptables de Nietzsche, parce qu'autrement il s'est trompé du
c'est beau
fond
ça,
comble. Oui.
la notion d'innocence.
Oui, mais c'est pas l'innocence, madame, c'est une ouverture totale vers quelque chose qui ne peut pas venir de dehors. Alors, inexplicable. C'est la voie la plus courte vers la révélation de la valeur de l'homme. Ce n'est pas ça la musique. Tout art a un seul but, la liberté. Alors, qu'est-ce que c'est la musique? Est-ce que ce sont... Ah, elle est belle. Ah, comme ça m'a touché. Ah, ce Celibidache, comme il est dramatique. J'aime ça. Mais c'est pas du tout ça. Ça sont des moyens. Ça, c'est l'appât pour que vous mordez. Tout art a un seul but, la liberté.
But, you know, between what I've written in Inflammation Mastery and what Nietzsche had written, and then what Celibidache commented in his interview, as I came back home today from the grocery store just a few minutes ago, I was thinking to myself, so those are all examples of generosity. I guess maybe that's the way that I would have to summarize that. what I said is that healthcare should try to empower people and liberate them from their diseases, and perhaps through some miraculous employment of social advantage, doctors could actually try to enlighten people and make them intellectually free, not simply physically free from a medical standpoint. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Nietzsche, and I was thinking about Salvadacci, and I was thinking about like the situation in the United States right now, especially. And I was thinking, obviously Nietzsche and Salvadacci and what they said, they could be seen as role models for the liberation of other people and for the beautification of life. But I was thinking, contrasting that with all the chaos in the United States right now, I was thinking, but we don't even have that in the United States. We have politicians who do nothing. I mean, they just clusterfuck the political process. So, for example, if you're an American, I'm sure you've seen, like, we have these congressional hearings every once in a while. That is the biggest fucking circus that could possibly exist in civilized society. Those congressional hearings never accomplish anything. So typically what they'll do is they'll interview someone who's been corrupt. They'll interview like a mass murderer, like Anthony Fauci, or they'll interview someone who's completely inept and completely corrupt, and then they will document the lies, the corruption, the malfeasance, the manslaughter, the murder, and then nothing happens after that. So it's just completely stupid. And I could provide you many examples. You can certainly find many examples on your own. But again, the point is contrasting like the generosity that I'm aware of as a human and societal possibility doesn't exist on a grand scale as it should in the United States and maybe in other countries. But since I'm an American and I grew up in the United States, I'm just picking on the United States. But look in the United States, you've got billionaires. I think now we're at the point of trillionaires. And what do they do for society? Absolutely nothing. For example, like the entire Italian, what was it, the Enlightenment, was funded, in part, largely funded by one family, the Medicis, in wherever they were. I know they had to move around a bit because they got kicked out of their own city. But like one rich family in Italy inspired the entire Enlightenment, right? And the Renaissance. Maybe it was the French. It was the French Enlightenment and the Italian Renaissance, I guess is what it was. Or maybe the reverse, whatever. But look at what we have now. We have billionaires up to trillionaires, and they do absolutely nothing. So look at Jeff Bezos. Why doesn't he fund a cultural beautification project with all of his money and his underpaid employees who can barely even survive, even though they're working directly under the richest man, one of the richest men in the world, right? They're working for one of the richest companies in the world, one of the richest men in the world, and they're all underpaid. He could, first of all, pay his employees a living salary. Second of all, with all of his money, he could beautify the entirety of the United States with his money. He could set up craft schools and trade schools where people learn how to do beautiful art and sculpture and cement work and woodwork and carving and all that kind of stuff, just like the Medicis did, and model and fund and initiate a trend where rich people actually make the society better. So, like I said, it was already done by the Medicis in Italy. But we don't even have a model for that. So, for some reason, in the randomness of getting home from the grocery store today, I was struck by the contrast of certain glimpses I've had and have modeled myself of generosity. But where's the generosity in American society these days? All the billionaires do is just fuck things up. They take their money, they buy off politicians, they make more money, and what do they do with that money? They don't even pay the proportionate taxes. So I was thinking, actually, here's where it came from. I was talking with a guy who I've been paying for some construction work. This is exactly where it came from. So I was coming home from the grocery store and I saw this guy who I know in the street. He was doing another job for somebody else. And I've been kind of internally criticizing him in a sense, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. He does good work. He's a good guy. He works really hard. But one of the critiques that I have, and it's not a big critique, and I'd be happy to say it to him. I have said other things to him. But one of the critiques that I have in my mind of him is that even though he does good, honest work for a good rate, and he works really hard, sometimes he'll work 12 hours on a project without taking a break. But what I've noticed about him on several different levels is he's never had a mentor. He's never had someone to advise him on how to work better, how to live better, how to get paid better, how to advance his career. And I have tried to help him on those things. In fact, I bought him a book on like financial management and financial advancement. And his response to me after buying him that book, which I just bought off a street vendor, he said, "No one's ever bought a book from me before." So yeah. Anyway, again, my internal dialogue, which was triggered when I saw him today, just randomly coming home from the grocery store, my internal dialogue around him has been he doesn't have a mentor, and that's why I've tried to mentor him. But again, kind of the collage of all these ideas together is that who is mentoring the United States to become a better society? Like, I can't, and I watch too much news, but like, I don't see anybody in the United States doing anything to actually advance the society. And you're talking about the United States, what is it, 350 million people, more billionaires, I believe, or at least a hell of a lot of millionaires and billionaires. And they do nothing. Like, why aren't we aware? We're all aware of dumb shit like music and movies and all this stupid social trivia. We're all aware of that. But why aren't we also aware? And the reason we're not aware is because I don't even think it exists. Why don't we also, so you all know about like the latest political scandal or the latest political bullshit or whatever. You all know about that. But so you all have models for corruption. You all have models for incompetence. We all do. But none of us in current society have models for generosity, liberation, beautification of the world, intelligent or at least beneficent utilization of private resources. Like, it doesn't exist. Look at the billionaires who funded, like the vaccine industry and then leveraged the World Health Organization into this, bullshit. I mean, the World Health Organization essentially is dead. Like, it doesn't exist as a health body. It's just a private club now. So that same money and effort could have gone into things that make the world better. But we are completely ruled by psychopaths, and we don't even have, so it would be, like, one situation would be to have 20 psychopaths trying to run the world. And we've got at least 20 psychopaths trying to run the world. And you all know them by name, and that's exactly my point. All of you who haven't had your head in the sand for the past 5 years, all of you could name a solid 5 men, billionaires who are psychopaths and ruining your country or ruining the world or trying to ruin both. You could all name 5 to 10 billionaire psychopaths right now. You could all name that. But I bet you couldn't name 3 billionaires or even millionaires who are advancing society and modeling adulthood and modeling generosity and paying for a trade school. Like, I wanted to open a trade school a few years ago when I was at a time when I had some money and I thought I was going to have some more money, and none of it ever materialized. But like my spontaneous dream that motivated me at that time was to open a trade school, to mentor and employ and educate young people or whatever people, and then use them as kind of an army of people to, make the world more beautiful. I mean, I wanted to do that, and I wasn't anywhere near the level of cash flow that these other people have. But again, that's my point. You could all name at least 5 billionaire psychopaths right now, but you can't name maybe even a single. I don't know. I personally can't name a single billionaire person who's making the world better. Like on a big scale. I'm not talking about like a little contribution over here. I'm not talking about using their power to, like Bill Gates did, So he invested in vaccines, and then he hijacked the World Health Organization to then mandate vaccines. So he just makes money off of his own investment. I'm talking about real philanthropy. I mean, I don't know how many millionaires are in the United States, but I don't know of any who are doing anything on a big scale. The United States has plenty of billionaires, and none of them are doing anything to help advance society on a big scale, because if it were on a big scale, I would know about it and you would know about it. So I just, as if the world weren't tragic enough, I mean, we don't even have a single model, relatively speaking. I mean, even if you came up with 1 or 3 or even 5, they're still way overpowered or overmastered by the psychopath billionaires. So I don't have a solution for that. I mean, the solution is obvious, but it can't come from me. I mean, I can't go say, hey, Mr. Billionaire, why don't you actually get off your ass and do something to make the world better, like the Medicis. I mean, what we need is a Medici movement. We've got tons of billionaires. I mean, especially now that wealth is being concentrated so strongly. We have a superabundance of millionaires and billionaires who are at least as rich, if not more rich, proportionately, than the Medicis were in Italy. So we need, and I certainly can't force, but we need a Medici movement, because, again, all these kind of ideas in my mind, and then I saw this young man today, and I was thinking, wow, he just doesn't have a mentor. But who's mentoring society in general? Who's mentoring American society as a model for being a competent, generous, creative human being? Like, and I'm not talking about like rap music or any kind of, we do have a few artists that I see every once in a while who do good work, but I'm not talking about crap creativity. I'm talking about creativity that impacts society in a good way. I'm aware of, and I'll just to provide a reverse of that, so to speak, I have personal contact with some artists who are spectacular. Like, they're musicians, and they're on the level of like Mozart and I presume Celibidache and Beethoven. I mean, they are the modern version of Mozart. And I've been to at least one of their concerts, and when I lived in Austin, Texas, and I don't even know if we had 200 people in that. It was just like a little club or a little restaurant or something like that. I think it was a restaurant. Somebody bought me the ticket for my birthday. But I would be surprised if we had 200 people in that venue for these Mozart quality artists. And then about a month ago, I saw a concert. I didn't go myself, but I was aware of it, of just this rap trash. Like they couldn't even hold a tune. It was just like horrible. And they filled the stadium with 50,000 people. So, again, garbage culture and the psychopathic, selfish garbage culture is so disproportionately huge right now in society. Like, they can fill a stadium for 6 hours with 50,000 people to listen to absolute trash, but you can't fill a big restaurant with 200 people to listen to Mozart, Beethoven, Da Vinci quality music, And like, people don't even have a model. And Robert Bly says that. I have his book behind me. Robert Bly says that in one of his presentations. Oh, it's in a presentation which I have loved for many years. It's called The Naive Male. And in that presentation, he does say exactly what I said right now. And he said, we don't even have a model. He was talking about men at that time. Because obviously he was one of the, co-founders of the men's movement back in the 1990s and late 80s. But what he said in his presentation, he says, we don't even have a model for appropriate male and masculine behavior. But now it applies to the entire society. I mean, again, and I'll just say this one last time and close it out, but I could name, with maybe a little bit of, in a few minutes of work, I could identify 10 or more psychopathic billionaires who are actively damaging either the global society or American society. But I could not readily identify 10 billionaires who are offsetting that. So it's not even equal. So, someone will try to attack what I'm saying, and they'll say, oh, well, we have this billionaire and he opened a school for homeless people. That's great. Is that on a national scale equal to the damage that's being caused by these other 20 billionaires? No. So, yeah, and feel free to send me an example if you want. But, because maybe I'll make a list of that. But again, I am talking about that level of specificity, but in another sense I'm not. I'm talking about the overall impact. What is the overall impact that we see in the daily news? Is it, oh, Jeff Bezos opened a school for wood carving in order to bring back, beautiful art to society, some of which I have in front of me, or even on the wall here. Did somebody open an art school for carving marble, kind of, like I said before, kind of recreating the Medici movement? Have any billionaires done that on a scale that's actually changing society for the better? I'm not aware of it. And if you show me 1 or 3 examples, that's still micro compared to the massive global damage being done by some of the other billionaires when they hijack the vaccine industry and then hijack the World Health Organization and, condemn billions of people to, this pandemic prison that we had and to some extent still have starting 5 years ago. So anyway, again, I don't have I do have the solution. The solution is we need a Medici movement from these millionaires and billionaires who just accumulate money and do nothing. That's what we need. I can't enforce that, but I can at least articulate it. And that's the best I can do right now. Hope you're all doing well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Où ça? Je dois diriger votre attention, ce que personne n'a jamais fait. Quand il y a une instrumentation défectueuse, ça vient de quoi? Ça vient de l'expérience restreinte du compositeur qui n'a fait que se concentrer sur ce qu'on entend directement. Ça veut dire le monde physique de la musique, les relations sonores directes. Mais ça ne sert à rien. Si vous voyez comme Ravel choisit ses flageolets en fonction des sons qui ne naissent pas directement, sinon ils sont tout à fait collatéraux. Mais si ça ne vous intéresse pas, bien sûr que vous n'avez pas la nécessité d'avoir un tempo très lent pour matérialiser tous ces effets. Donc, de là une différence. Quel est le critique français qui a jamais entendu autre chose que le son direct? Il n'est pas né encore. Mais ça ne veut pas dire que ceux qui font de la critique ne pourraient pas être portés à cette nouvelle perspective. Mais faites par qui? C'est pas M. Tsipine qui enseigne la direction d'orchestre au conservatoire. C'est une honte. Et alors pourquoi faire? Pour détruire la jeunesse? Pour rendre amère toute leur réaction parce qu'il n'y a pas autre chose.
Mais moi, j'écoutais votre tempo du final de cette quatrième, avec cet énorme crescendo qui se construit mesure après mesure.
Oui. Et de quoi ça dépend? Comment il reste debout, madame?
Et il est parfait.
Il est parfait, pourquoi?
C'est une sorte de
Parce que ça veut
luminosité.
dire que vous avez entendu, écouté, réalisé et transcendé quoi? Les 9 octaves. Si vous vous concentrez seulement sur le corps et seulement sur ça, vous n'avez pas besoin de beaucoup de temps. Mais si vous voulez percevoir l'entier appareil qui bouge et qui se détend et qui s'expande, ça n'existe pas en français.
S'épanouit.
S'épanouit jusqu'à un certain nombre fortissimo. Ça veut dire, vous y étiez là où j'étais moi. C'est de là que vient cette identification. Vous me dites, il était parfait. Madame, pour moi, il était parfait aussi. Ah oui. Mais ce n'est pas votre mérite, ce n'est pas non plus le mien. Mais nous, les deux, on écoutait toute la richesse. Ce que le pauvre critique ne peut pas faire. Parce que, d'abord, sa mémoire est un fait qui lui met des freins partout. Dans l'acte créatif, il n'y a pas de mémoire, il n'y a pas de science, il n'y a pas de connaissance. Si vous êtes, parce que ce sont des faits qui sont toujours attachés au passé. L'acte créatif n'accepte aucune condition en dehors de lui-même. C'est pour ça qu'il est libre. Et vous n'avez jamais entendu du Bruckner, en France c'est très peu connu. Et le fait que vous êtes quand même détaché de tout votre passé, ça fait de vous une créatrice. Si c'est vrai que vous avez trouvé ça parfait, c'est en fonction de cette libération. Alors, on ne peut pas dire, ah, je sais ce que c'est un majeur, ça ne m'intéresse pas. Je sais ce que c'est un corps. Et c'est écrit fortissimo. Mais comment structurer un fortissimo? Si votre oreille n'est pas du commencement, là où toutes les possibilités d'épanouissement s'ouvrent. Si vous n'êtes pas là, si vous entendez, oh, j'ai un disque de Bruno Walter à la maison, et c'est beaucoup plus vite. Vous voyez? Et sur le disque, cette incroyable richesse de l'impression que vous avez suivie aujourd'hui, ça ne peut pas, parce que le microphone ne peut pas prendre tout ça.
Même avec les nouvelles techniques digitales.
Au contraire, les nouvelles critiques, ils s'éloignent encore plus. On divise le son en 1 600 000 parties et on le recombine. Mais selon quels critères? Selon les critères de la machine. Comment peut-on dire ce qui a été? Ce n'est pas un moment physique. C'est tout à fait de nature spirituelle. Et où reste-t-il? Si la mémoire s'est attachée au passé, ça veut dire il n'est pas créateur. Le moment créatif, il est libre. Libre de toute votre science, de tous vos instincts. Tout est transcendé de l'autre côté.
Je ne veux pas avoir l'air pédante, mais je crois que c'est Nietzsche qui disait que l'innocence, c'était la condition essentielle de la création, de la liberté dans l'art.
Pendant les choses acceptables de Nietzsche, parce qu'autrement, il s'est trompé du
C'est beau,
fond
ça,
comble. Oui.
la notion d'innocence.
Oui, mais ce n'est pas l'innocence, madame. C'est une ouverture totale vers quelque chose qui ne peut pas venir de dehors. Alors, inexplicable. Il y a beaucoup de choses comme ça. Vous voyez, ils prétendent de savoir ce que c'est la musique. Mais quand vous prenez la mesure 4 du développement, pour pouvoir passer à la musique, à la mesure 5, vous devez vous l'approprier, savoir tout ce qui est dedans, faire une unité de ça, parce que votre esprit peut quitter une unité pour en recevoir une autre. Il n'y a pas de polyvalence. C'est de ça. C'est la voie la plus courte vers la révélation de la valeur de l'homme et de l'existence de cette vibration centrale.
Est-ce, maestro, parce que vous êtes au plus profond de la musique?
Je ne peux pas dire ça, madame.
Enfin, disons dans la musique, alors.
Oui, même ça, je ne peux pas le dire. Parce que vous êtes comme moi. Vous n'avez pas eu la chance d'être empêché par quelqu'un, de rester à la phase où le son réveille en vous des émotions. Ce n'est pas ça la musique. Tout art a un seul but, la liberté. Alors, qu'est-ce que c'est la musique? Est-ce que ce sont... Ah, elle est belle. Ah, comme ça m'a touché. Ah, ce Celibidache, comme il est dramatique. J'aime ça. Mais ce n'est pas du tout ça. Ça sont des moyens. Ça, c'est l'appât pour que vous mordez. C'est par le son que je découvre qu'il y a en vous des réactions que cette quinte a implanté en vous ou a fait sortir. le son a une relation ininterprétable avec le monde émotionnel de l'homme. Et ça, c'est l'objet de la phénoménologie. Elle vous le prouve. Alors, mais c'est pas ça, c'est pas par ça. C'est par ça que vous écoutez de la musique. Et même que vous faites peut-être la musique. Mais le but final, c'est d'arriver à la liberté. Quand vous suivez avec cette oreille dont vous avez fait preuve, vous avez senti que ça ne pouvait pas être autrement. Vous croyez, quelle interprétation j'ai. Il n'y a pas d'interprétation. C'est que tout ce qui est réduisible vous a été offert. Et vous avez réduit tout où? À quoi? Je réduis la mesure 5 en relation avec la troisième, cinquième, la première articulation secours, la troisième, quelle est la dernière réduction? Le tout dans un 1 qui est tout le morceau. Si vous avez fait cette réduction, vous vous êtes libéré de tous les vecteurs qui ont trouvé une résonance intérieure en vous, qui vous ont fait vivre quelque chose, et vous avez vécu ça sous les indications de Bruckner, parce qu'il faut aller par là, par ce thème, par ça, les contrastes, les oppositions, et finalement, boum, me voici et libéré. Et à la fin, vous avez dit, comme c'était beau. Alors vous n'avez pas encore découvert ce qu'il y avait à découvrir. Ce n'était pas beau, c'était vrai. Et la beauté n'est autre chose qu'une station intermédiaire vers la vérité. Donc, vers la perception de cette sensation de vibration centrale, cosmique.
Je trouve parfaitement cohérent avec vous-même, parce que quand on vous écoute parler de la vérité, on comprend bien que vous détestez le mensonge et ceux qui le pratiquent,
oui, bien sûr.
et que ça vous empêche de travailler.
Écoutez, il y a quand même beaucoup de gens qui détestent le mensonge et qui ne peuvent pas faire de la musique. Ce qui me fait encore, qui me rend capable de faire, c'est que je n'ai pas d'intention. Je me libère à chaque fois de tout ce que je sais, toute cette phénoménologie que je pratique. Ce sont des noms, pas comme ça, flûte trop basse, contrebasse trop vite, pas. Mais ce que c'est, le vrai oui, je ne peux pas parler de ça. C'est vous qu'à la fin vous dites, oui, je suis libre maintenant. Je suis passé par tout ce conflit que vous avez déclenché en moi par le son, mais ce n'est pas le but de la musique et le but de l'art. Ce n'est pas la beauté, c'est une fausse conception occidentale. C'est la vérité finale. Parce que qu'est-ce qu'il fait, lui? S'il serait resté attaché à ce qui l'a intéressé quand il a fait cette tête, il ne pourrait pas faire une autre. Il s'est détaché, il s'était libéré de ce contraste qui a manœuvré sa main et son esprit pour figurer ça. Mais il s'est, à la fin, boum, et voici qu'il s'intéresse pour une autre tête peut-être, ou pour un pied, ce qui est parfaitement en ordre. Tout était libération. Alors, la conception, comme c'est beau, il m'a touché, ce sont des réactions personnelles. Mon approche à la musique n'est pas du tout personnelle. Même si je suis un terrain extrêmement sensible à toutes ces suggestions. On commence par cette vue imprenable, cette vaste éternité qui, au commencement,